Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great, as I always say. And in this video, I have more encounters from all over the place. I have one from Australia, one from Southwest Florida, one from I don't remember where, and another one from I also don't remember where. So, there's gonna be surprises all around. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, definitely pull up a stump with me, and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. My grandfather told me this story a little while ago while he was visiting. It's nothing exactly cutting edge, it's just the fact that I wasn't ever expecting to hear a story like this from him of all people. He's quite the mild-mannered pacifist, nor did I expect an example from a relatively urbanized part of Australia too, so close to my home. So since it's my grandfather, let me take you back to the 1950s, to when he was a kid. He was living in Fairfield, a suburb out to the southwest of Sydney, New South Wales. His father leaves for some work dinner meeting thing, I don't remember the exact wording, but he left him, his mother, and his brother at home. After his father is long gone, a heavy thumping is heard against the side wall of the house. My grandpa described it as a large, heavy, kinda meaty thwack, like the size of a cow, but hitting 5 feet up the wall, and there are sounds of irregular staggering across the gravel driveway outside. They go outside to see what's happening, assuming that it was probably a drunk guy bumping into the side of the house, thinking it was his and got lost. The gravel is disturbed, and there are large marks where the thumping on the wall was, but there's no sign of whatever caused it. They quickly scout the perimeter and then head back inside, finding nothing. A few more minutes later, they hear the staggering up the driveway again, but this time it has his father's voice calling out to his mother to let him in. They didn't hear his car pull up in the driveway though. His mother calls up the venue where his dad was at to ask him to be put on. He picks up the phone and answers like normal. The real deal is clearly still alive and nowhere near home. And apparently the event was too far away for him to have driven there and then driven back in the time to be pulling any pranks on them. The attention is now turned back to the staggering, the house-shaking thumping, and the simulacrum of his father's voice. After however long, the father returns home, pulls up in the driveway and lets himself in with his set of keys. The family is quite obviously scared by the whole ordeal. This continues on for a few months, so they start setting traps up around the backyard to try and get an advanced warning for when it's going to come. Stuff like tripwires connected to posts with tin cans full of pebbles on top, so that the bumping will cause loud noises at certain intervals from the house so they can track its movement. But the thumping continued without the tripwires being set off. Now this means either it's intelligent and nimble enough to identify the tripwires and avoid them, which is unlikely given the aforementioned uneven shambling noises, or it's so tall that it can walk over them unbothered, which seems to be more likely given how high up the wall the center of mass of the thumping apparently was. They get the idea that it might have just been some mischievous neighborhood kids that are really good at impressions pulling a prank on them. But they talk to the neighbors about it, and the neighbors say, "Oh God, it's happening to you guys too?" Apparently after they spoke to the neighbors, it decreased in frequency for them, but increased in frequency for the neighbors. Eventually, it more or less stops targeting them and solely targets the neighbors. Unfortunately, this has an anticlimactic ending. I asked my grandpa if he and his family tried helping the neighbors at all, but they moved shortly after, and the other family was, I guess, left to their own devices. Since they were never able to catch it or even spot it, the details are a little dubious, as if it was indeed an entity like a skinwalker, or if it was an unruly neighbor. But since the others were experiencing it too, I don't think that's the case. And I honestly don't believe it's a skinwalker, but I think it's something else because that stuff doesn't really happen around here. When I was 15, I was living in southwestern Florida, aka America's Retirement Center. I live in a, quote, city with these spotted wooded areas. Anyways, I meet up from somebody that I knew from school, and we were riding bikes in this neighborhood that I'm not from. It's got a bunch of half-finished and abandoned houses, creek beds, and streams that divide up the neighborhoods. It's nothing crazy or extraordinary, just the concrete and wood frames of structures. Some of the homes that were close to being finished, I looked through the window to see what were basically empty houses with one or two things left in the front by some previous tenants. I never walked up to a house that didn't look abandoned. I was just exploring and walking around. Sometimes there was a door open or a window to crawl in, and you got the thrill of being somewhere where you're not supposed to be. So we keep going deeper and deeper into these neighborhoods, and it gets to a point where none of the houses were finished or had any signs of human life anywhere. Personally, I wanted to see how far we could go, and the guy that I was with also didn't know the area that well. Sometimes we would see raccoons or a possum that would wander by, or something that had made home in one of the houses. Right before we head back, I want to swing by the back side of this house. The bikes are leaned up against the side of the house. There's tall grass and a creek with this mini dam looking thing that we have to control the water a lot in this area of Florida. I swear, I saw some shadowy figure on the other side of the creek, but I looked back and there was nothing. Now, I was not using the full potential of my brain when I decided to walk toward the creek because I had an ominous feeling about this, and the other guy I was with didn't move. The sense of danger kept growing the closer that I got to the creek until I just instinctively stopped halfway there. To my left, there was either a thick tree low to the ground or a mangrove or something like that, and from that direction, I heard. It was difficult to pinpoint, and honestly difficult to describe. But I heard this inhuman, I say laugh, but it was more of a screech. It just had a weird, booming quality to the point, and kind of sounded like a laugh. I don't know. It was just inhuman sounding. The screech was like anything I'd ever heard before. It was like if a chimpanzee and a witch combined to create this ungodly, high-pitched, demonic, cackly screech laugh thing that completely terrified me and my friend. I turned around and just kind of noped out of there. There was no hesitation in either person's mind. We went the long path to get our bikes on the other side of the house, and while taking the long path, I heard it several more times, and my friend says that he saw the thing quickly dipping in and out of the gaps in the trees. I still don't know what the hell it was. It wasn't human though. Honestly, the sound it made me think that it was some type of Bigfoot-looking ancestor. That's the best explanation that I have. It's like it had some ape or monkey traits in the voice, but there was something unnatural about it. It just gave me that supernatural vibe that makes me think that it was something else. Whatever it was, it's the type of voice that will send terror straight through you, and although I think about going back there, I don't want to go back there, if you know what I mean. Moral of the story is you don't even need to be that far away from civilization for something scary to happen. A A few summers ago, I decided that I wanted to take part in the Stalker Challenge. And if you're wondering what that is, Stalker is an acronym, and it means that you have to stay in the woods for 48 hours within 50 feet or so of a broken down building. You have to bring a gun with you, and you have to bring alcohol and or smokes with you. You also have to bring some kind of musical instrument. And you get bonus points for even listening to Eastern European music or bringing a gas mask. So with that out of the way, I went out into the woods and I brought my SKS and my Glock with me. I spend the first half of the first day exploring. I find a nice abandoned concrete structure of sorts, and I set up my camp nearby it and I make my fire. I got some small game on the way in with my slingshot, so I started skinning that. And after I cooked it, it was pretty tasty. But anyways, so I'm sitting there, and I hear some rustling. This doesn't really bother me, because I figured it could be a rabbit, because that's what I'm eating, and that's the game that I mainly saw in the forest anyways. But the rustling does get a little closer, and goes on for a while. So I put my hand on my rifle, and I scan the forest in front of me and behind me. After about 5 minutes, it goes away, so I put my guard back down and I go back to playing my harmonica. The next day, I wake up to this screaming. My eyes shoot open, I grab my rifle, and as soon as I come out of the tent, silence. Absolute silence. I look up at the sky. There are storm clouds gathering, and soon after it starts a bit of a light or misty rain. I decided that I should head in the direction that I heard the scream, in case someone is injured or needs help. But I spend over an hour searching, and it keeps changing direction, so I end up getting lost. Eventually, after a couple more hours, I find my way back to my camp, and I'm pretty tired, and it's raining like crazy now. But as I come into the clearing, I see a guy just standing over my fire, looking at the smoldering ashes. I'm shaken. I say, "Hey man." His head snaps up to look at me. I raise my gun. I'm quite freaked out at this point. He doesn't even flinch at all. In fact, he just looks curious, almost like he's wondering what my gun even is. I say, "You lost, man?" He doesn't respond. After a few seconds, he smiles at me. I say, "Do you need some help?" His clothes look tattered and ripped, but there's no wounds on him or anything. The whole scene is really, really strange. He looks like he just got run over by a truck, but minus the truck. We have a bit of a standoff. 30 seconds later, I say, "You're kind of worrying me, bro. Are you okay?" He finally speaks. He just says, "I wouldn't worry about it." When he said that, I felt a chill. Then he says, "I could go for another meal right now, though." And then I realized that I didn't leave any food by the fireplace. And then all of those stories that I've heard, all of those people that have had crazy things happen to them deep in the woods come rushing back. I don't even try to be subtle. I just turn around and run. As I'm sprinting, I can hear him running after me, getting closer and closer. I turn around and start shooting blindly. I hear a scream. It sounds exactly like the scream that I heard in the forest all day. The exact same pitch, the exact same tone and cadence and everything. Finally, I reach a road. I end up slipping and tumbling down a hill onto it. I get up as quick as I can and I run across the road, my gun limp at my side. I see the figure up by some trees. It's the weirdest thing. We were tens of feet away, and I could still hear his ragged breathing. The lights of a car are coming around a turn. It looks at the car and then the headlights, and then turns and sinks back into the woods. I don't really know what I experienced out there. If it was just a really weird, crazy person. If it was one of those shapeshifter things, I don't know. But after that, I sincerely thought about just moving out of the state. Back when I was 19, I had just gotten engaged, and my fiancée likes to stay in and play video games, so I convinced her to come with me on a camping trip with some friends from work. We load up on liquor, smokes, guns, and ammo. I bring a couple of 22s for plinking and a few hundred rounds. There are some dangerous animals in the area that we are going to, so I bring her AR as well. We meet up with the stoner friend and his sister, and we hop into their SUV and pick up another guy. The other guy is sort of strange and quiet, but he's a pretty alright dude, if not a little creepy sometimes. So our stoner bro said that he knew a spot or had a secret spot, one of the two. So we're almost there, and our car runs out of gas. I say, "What the hell, dude? You were supposed to fill it up before you came to get us." And he just said, "Oh, well, it's not too far. Guess I forgot. We can hike it." I sigh and realized that we don't have much other choice. It was about 11 when we left, and we got there around 1 p.m. The hike took about 2 hours because people kept stopping to use the bathroom though. So we finally arrive at the clearing, and the stoner bro is overjoyed. He immediately rolls a joint and starts smoking. I start setting up a fire while my fiancée sets up the tents and stuff. The creepy bro is still listening to his iPod. The guy's sister awkwardly tries talking to my fiancée and helps her out with some stuff. We crack open some beers around 5 p.m. and we all get settled in. We roast some hot dogs, marshmallows, make s'mores, good old-fashioned camping stuff. The creepy guy keeps jerking his head up from his notebook and keeps scribbling stuff. We dick around for a while and get a buzz on till about 10 p.m. or so. We finally decide to call it a night, and we'll plink beer bottles and cans in the morning. We all crawl into our tents, except for the creepy guy, who stays up doodling his whatever he's drawing in his notebook. We were all sleeping when we hear a loud yelp. We wake up. I look around. It's dark. I peek my head out of the tent. The creepy guy looks like he's just peed his pants. I ask him what's up. He looks at me and says, "Oh, it must have just been a fox or something. Sorry for waking you, man." I say, "Oh, it's no problem." I'm a little bit irritated, but I figure that he may have something wrong with him, so I just sigh and I go back to sleep and just blow it off, 'cause he's an alright guy. I wake up 30 minutes later to the same yelp. This time, I'm actually mad. I storm out of my tent to go and talk to the guy, but he's now in his tent and is asleep. I figure that I'm just hearing stuff in my half-sleeping state. I look around just in case though, and don't find a whole lot. As I'm just crawling back into my tent, I hear loud breathing and twigs cracking. I freeze. I have no idea why I froze, but for some reason, I got this instant feeling of utter fear and dread coursing through my entire body. I stand there, half in my tent, my ass hanging out the back of it. My fiancée wakes up and asks me what I'm doing. She notices that I'm visibly freaked out. Slowly, I reach for her AR and I say, "Shh." I load it and rack it, and I turn around and look around the outside. There's nothing. Just me, some guy half naked with an AR out in the woods. Then, I hear a crackle from the woods, really loud and sudden. I jerk toward the sound, and I accidentally nosedive into the woods. Everyone wakes up and asks me what the hell's going on. I say that, oh, I just heard a deer, I guess, and then I try to go back to sleep. Nothing else happened that night except for the stoner guy trying to use the bathroom on a tree and then slipping on the grass and face planting. It was pretty funny. So morning comes and everyone is still mad about me last night. We do some plinking, make some chili. Everyone forgets about it after a bit, and we're all having fun again. I still feel that dread from last night, so I just keep quiet and keep to myself. We hiked around for a bit, took in the breathtaking scenery, and just enjoyed life for a whole day. Nothing unusual. However, night falls once again. It's a chilly night, so we build a big roaring fire. It's pretty cool, really, knowing that we made it ourselves. We even roll over some logs to sit on and just enjoy roasting some marshmallows. The creepy guy stays out of the circle like usual and just draws in his notepad. He starts drawing really intentively. Meanwhile, I'm talking with the stoner guy and his sister. We're talking about work, how we don't like our bosses, and normal 19-year-old stuff to talk about. My fiance is tired from all the hiking and stuff, which is unusual for her because she's really fit. She just lays her head on my shoulder while I talk to my friend, and suddenly there's a really loud creak. Everyone, even the creepy guy, jump straight up. We look around and we all ask, what the hell was that? Another one. Creak. We think, is that a tree falling over? Instantly, that fear comes back, but much worse. The dread as well from last night. We all begin to feel sick. We think that somebody spiked our beer or something. Everyone runs to grab their guns. We get our stuff and group up. We're standing close to each other and watching our flanks. The stoner bro, my fiance, and the guy's sister are all freaking out. Suddenly, another blood-curdling scream comes from the woods, and then another, and another, and we're thinking, what the hell is going on here? Everyone starts grabbing whatever's most important to them, and we just decide to jet. We're running down the steep hill that we walked up the other day. The stoner bro's sister trips and hurts her leg or foot or whatever, I don't quite remember. Suddenly, the creepy guy runs up to her, and I swear, just carries her over his shoulder and runs faster than all of us could. It's amazing what adrenaline can do, right? So we get into our truck and we hop in, and oh right, no gas. We hear the creak and the screams in the distance, and some close by. The weird guy grabs the stoner guy's sister and runs way ahead of us like an idiot. He drops his notebook, but I pick it up on the way. We run for God knows how long, or far, until the noises stopped following us. We're completely out of breath, but we rest for a bit. We look up after some minutes, and we see a naked dude standing in the distance. The dude is just staring at us. We get up, and we stare at him back. We call out, "Hey, are you lost?" Silence. My fiance says that we need to leave. I say, "Why?" She says, "Dude, look at his head." I realize, when looking back at him, that his head is shaped like a triangle. Suddenly, there's that yelp again. Maximum sense of fear is engaged here. Then, we hear the yelping all around us. We fire off a few shots before starting to run again. We run for 20 more minutes when I look back. Then, just before I turn my head, I trip. I slam my head on the concrete. It's the highway. We calm down, but keep a quick pace down the way we came, and we eventually got to a gas station. I sat down outside it since it was closed. None of us say a word. We all seem to doze off, and We hitched a ride with a concerned old couple that was headed our way anyways later that morning. On the way, I remember the creepy guy's notepad. I go to hand it to him, but he's out like a light. I decide I may as well see what this guy draws. I flip through and his dragons and stuff like that. He's a really good artist. There's dates and signatures on all of his stuff. I flip to the end and I see the date from when we arrived. I look at it. He drew trees falling. He drew a picture of some of us doing stuff by the scenery, and then a whole bunch, like a legion, of those dudes with the triangle heads. My mind kind of blocked out seeing the naked dude, but seeing this picture, even the stance was exact, and so was the distance. I get that fear and dread once again, and I swear to God, I heard that yelp again, even though we were many miles away at the time. I still have nightmares about it. This happened years ago. But yeah, that's my story. So, what'd you think of those encounters? Let me know which one was your favorite one down in the comments. Do you have one of your own? I have an email in the description below that you can send them to if you like to. Also, I have a PayPal and a Patreon down there as well, if that's something that you're interested in. And this week I was asked what I thought about how there are so many variations of the same type of creature or entity or cryptid in all different areas across the world. And what I thought of, or what I could come up with, is that if they're supernatural, then they could have just followed those people when they left to go to the New World or migrate or wherever. But if they were like a physical thing, then I would have to say that I think that they would have just followed either humans or they probably followed their prey. So like animal migration, and they just followed them. Similar to how people crossed the land bridge into Alaska. You know, there was nothing stopping like the Yeti, I guess, from crossing that land bridge too, or various other cryptids, trying to find out just where we were going. And then they must have liked the area too. And I mean, North America is extremely expansive too. There's many areas here that are just totally unexplored by anybody ever, really. And yeah, those are just some thoughts that I had. Anyways, if you liked the video, then you can please like and subscribe if you want to, you know, no pressure. And I think I will see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump. Thank you for watching.